Welcome, curious minds. Today we're venturing back into a topic many of you are intensely curious about, ketamine. We've often discussed its remarkable potential, for treating conditions like depression, from its really rapid antidepressant effects to the fascinating science behind how it works. But beyond simply reducing symptoms, there's maybe a deeper question that comes up for a lot of people. How can we make the actual experience itself more profound? How can we enhance that unique internal journey to really support healing and, I guess, unlock personal insight? That's precisely our mission for this deep dive.
And we have some really exciting new research to guide us here. We're looking at a very recent, quite intriguing paper. It's titled Mindfulness, Music, and Visual Occlusion in Ketamine, a mixed method study on subjective experience and antidepressant effects. It's from a large team of researchers, including folks like Kirka, McDonald, Walter, and notably Dr. Zara and Dr. Price, published just this year, 2025. And this study directly explores ways to enrich that acute ketamine experience. And, well, what it found is pretty illuminating.
Okay, so if you're interested not just in what ketamine can do, but how to truly maximize the therapeutic potential of the journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, stay with us.
Right. As we've explored in previous deep dives, I think we talked about it in What to Expect with Ketamine-Assisted Therapy, this idea of setting your mindset and the environment around you. It's just foundational, especially when you're engaging with therapies that involve, altered states of consciousness, the right preparation, the intention, a supportive environment. It can dramatically shape the whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've also specifically dug into the powerful role of music. I remember that one. Music and ketamine therapy. We talked about how music almost acts like a therapist, subtly guiding you through the different phases of a ketamine journey. But this new research, it sounds like it takes that idea a significant step further by intentionally combining multiple sensory elements.
That's exactly it. The core hypothesis here was basically, could a carefully combined sensory interventions, specifically mindfulness, some strategically chosen music, and visual occlusion with an eye mask, could that amplify ketamine's overall effects? And, crucially, could it lead to more positive and meaningful subjective experiences for people dealing with clinical depression?
Okay, so they weren't just like throwing things together randomly. They were actually hypothesizing that these additions might work synergistically, like different instruments playing together to boost how ketamine affects brain flexibility and emotion regulation.
Precisely. To test this, the researchers set up a randomized controlled trial. That's a really robust design. It means participants get randomly assigned to different groups, which helps make sure any effects you see are really from the intervention, not just chance or some other factor. They recruited 43 adults, aged between 19 and 65, all diagnosed with clinical depression, and these participants were split into two main groups. Group 1 got ketamine plus the combined sensory intervention, so that included a 30-minute audio-guided mindfulness training session before the infusion, then continuous ambient music playing during the whole infusion, and an eye mask to block out visual input. The other group, the control group, they just received ketamine alone. They watched some educational clips beforehand, but didn't get those specific sensory additions.
Right, and you mentioned they excluded people with a lot of meditation experience. That seems important.
Yeah, that was a smart move. It helps ensure that any benefits they observed weren't just because someone was already really good at mindfulness, but came from the actual intervention itself.
No.
And yeah, most participants had a diagnosis of major depressive disorder.
Okay, got it. So they set it up carefully. What about the results? What did the numbers show?
Okay, so when we look at the quantitative side, the measurable stuff, the findings were quite clear. Both groups, it didn't matter if they had the sensory interventions or not, both experienced significant drops in their depression scores. And this reduction held up over the 30-day follow-up period, which, really just highlights again how robust ketamine's own antidepressant effect is. However, and this is a really critical point, the study found no statistically significant difference in those depression scale scores between the two groups.
Okay. So adding the mindfulness, the music, the eye mask, it didn't actually make ketamine more effective at reducing the depression symptoms, at least not according to those standard scales.
Exactly. The scores basically went down by about the same amount in both groups.
That's fascinating because, like we said at the start, the aim wasn't just symptom reduction, but also deepening the experience. So if the numbers didn't shift much on the depression front, what did happen with the quality of the experience itself? Is that where the differences showed up?
That's precisely where this study gets truly insightful. And it's why using a mixed methods approach, combining numbers and descriptions, is so valuable. When the researchers dove into the qualitative data, the rich, detailed descriptions participants gave about their experiences, Yeah, significant differences definitely emerged. The combined sensory interventions seemed to profoundly and meaningfully enrich the subjective experience for most of the people who received it.
Okay, enrich. So it wasn't about more antidepressant effect necessarily, but a richer internal journey. Can you give us a sense of what that actually felt like for them? What were they reporting?
Absolutely. Participants in that combined sensory group, they reported certain experiences much more often. For instance, greater engagement with the experience. A striking 52% reported this, compared to only 5% in the control group. Imagine feeling really present, actively involved in your inner world, not just watching it go by.
Yeah, that sounds very different, more active.
Definitely. They also reported a stronger connection to reality that was 42% versus just 5% in the controls, which might sound counterintuitive, but it suggests that these interventions actually help them feel more grounded even while in that altered state, which, as we'll see, can be really helpful.
Right, that's a key distinction.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about having an intense experience, but feeling connected and maybe even able to navigate it better.
Exactly. And the impact on their struggles during the session was noticeable too. 78% of the combined group reported a more profound break from depression or anxiety during the session itself. That's compared to 52% in the control group.
Wow, a clearer break.
Yeah, like a more distinct temporary relief. And maybe even more importantly, 42% reported an increased ability to tame negative thoughts compared to just 23% in the control group. It's like they felt they had a better handle on managing those difficult mental loops during the experience.
That's powerful. Those numbers really speak volumes. It suggests a more active, almost empowered way of engaging with their own mind. But you also mentioned awe. That sounds significant. What did that involve?
Ah, yes, the awe experiences. This is where things get potentially really transformative. The combined intervention group reported significantly more experiences related to awe. For example, 21% of this group experienced something called self-diminishment. That's where your personal problems or even your sense of physical self feels small or less important. It can lead to this profound mental reset.
And the control group?
0% reported that specific feeling.
Wow. Okay. What else?
They also reported vastness more often, 42% versus 17%. That's that feeling of experiencing something much larger than yourself, or being in the presence of something grand, maybe infinite, and connectedness, a feeling of being deeply connected to, other people, other beings, the world, the universe. That was 31% versus 11%.
That's a huge difference. It sounds almost like gaining a kind of cosmic perspective, feeling part of something bigger than your own worries.
Mm-hmm.
Humbling, maybe?
It really can be, yeah. Very humbling and often quite unifying. And one more related to awe. Need for accommodation. It sounds a bit academic, but it basically means feeling the need to change your existing ideas or frameworks about reality because of the new information or insights you gain during the experience.
Like a paradigm shift.
Kind of, yeah, like a fundamental shift in perspective. A puzzle piece clicking into place that changes the whole picture. This was reported by 21% in the combined group versus 17% in the controls. So taken together, these awe experiences really point towards a much deeper, more meaningful, almost spiritual quality to the experience for that group.
Incredible shifts in perception. But was it all positive? With this heightened awareness, this deeper engagement, were there any downsides or challenges reported more often?
That's a really crucial question, and the study was transparent about this. The answer is, it's nuanced. The combined sensory intervention did also lead to a higher frequency of transient negative experiences. Things like a temporary feeling of losing control over thoughts, that was 26% versus 11% in controls, and general discomfort, 21% versus 5%.
Okay.
And notably, reports of heightened anxiety and fear during the experience were exclusively found in the combined group. 21% reported this compared to none in the control group.
Exclusively, so that's definitely linked to the intervention.
It certainly suggests that these interventions heightened overall awareness and emotional sensitivity. They made participants potentially more attuned to both the positive and the challenging aspects arising internally. However, and this connects back to that increased sense of connection to reality we talked about that seemed to help them manage this anxiety. They were better able to recognize it as temporary, as part of the process, and maybe less threatening overall. So while the experience might have been more intense in moments, it was also perhaps more navigable.
I see. So it's like turning up the volume on the whole internal experience, the good and the bad, but also providing maybe better tools or a better anchor to handle the challenging parts. Like a double-edged sword, but with a handle.
That's a good way to think about it. Precisely. What all this qualitative data really points to is that while these sensory additions might not shift the needle on standard depression scores, they can profoundly alter the quality and the meaningfulness of the ketamine journey itself. They seem to make it richer, more engaging, provide a clearer sense of connection, perspective, and these really profound feelings of awe.
So for you listening, this really underscores that deepening the ketamine experience isn't just about lowering a score, although that's obviously vital. It's also about potentially opening up this incredible space for personal insight, for deep emotional processing, and maybe getting a completely fresh perspective on your life and struggles within a much larger context. It really highlights the possibility of a richer, more integrated healing process that goes way beyond just symptom checklists.
Exactly. And from a practical viewpoint, the study suggests that adding things like mindfulness guidance, curated music, and simple eye masks is actually pretty feasible. It's a relatively low-burden approach. Clinics could potentially implement these things to support patient comfort and enhance that emotional processing during infusions without needing tons of extra training or expensive equipment, just access to, say, good music libraries and some mindfulness tracks.
That's definitely good news for accessibility. Though, you mentioned the mindfulness was brief, just 20 minutes, and the music was standardized. That could be a factor, right? Like we talked about in music and ketamine therapy, personal taste in music varies so much. A standardized track might not resonate with everyone.
Absolutely, that's a valid point, and a limitation the researchers acknowledged. A more personalized approach, particularly with music, might yield even stronger results for some individuals. They also really stress the importance of the wider therapeutic context and, critically, the integration work that happens after the sessions. They referenced prior research showing the significant value of having concurrent psychotherapy alongside ketamine treatments, something we've definitely covered in deep dives like ketamine-assisted therapy and Kate's set and setting.
Right, the integration piece.
Yeah. It really reinforces this idea that ketamine might, crack open the window, as some say, offering these new perspectives and insights. But it's the guided psychological work, the integration therapy, that helps patients make sense of those insights, process the emotions, and actually weave those changes into their daily lives. These sensory interventions might help open that window wider, maybe make the view clearer, but the real lasting change often comes through that dedicated integration work.
Makes perfect sense. It's the whole package, not just the infusion itself.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned limitations. What else should we keep in mind about this particular study?
Well, as with most research, it's important to remember the scale. This was a relatively small study, 43 randomized participants. While that gave them enough statistical power to detect large effects, smaller, perhaps still meaningful differences might have been missed. So we definitely need larger trials to confirm these findings and see if they hold true across more diverse groups of people.
Okay, replication is key.
Always. And also, because this was a combined intervention, mindfulness and music and visual occlusion all together, it's tricky to tease apart the exact contribution of each individual element. Was it mostly the music, or the mindfulness prep, or the eye mask, or is it truly the synergy of all three? Future research could try to isolate those components. It's definitely an exciting area for more investigation.
Got it. Lots more to learn.
Yeah.
But overall, this deep dive really does expand how we can think about ketamine therapy. It clearly shows that even if these fairly simple sensory additions don't necessarily move the needle on the standard depression scores, they can make the subjective experience itself profoundly richer, leading to that greater engagement, deeper connection, better handling of tough thoughts, and these really quite extraordinary feelings of awe. It suggests a more meaningful, perhaps more integrated path towards healing for many.
Absolutely. It highlights that for many people, the journey isn't just about the destination of symptom reduction, important as that is. It's also about the quality of the insights and the shifts in perspective gained along the way. And this kind of research lays really crucial groundwork for thinking about how we can optimize the whole therapeutic environment, the integration strategies, and ultimately support better long-term well-being for patients.
So maybe a final thought to leave you with, our listener, is this. If these relatively simple, low-burden additions can potentially make the ketamine experience so much more profound and emotionally rich, what does that tell us about the power of intentionally designing our healing environments, maybe in any context? How might we, through perhaps small, deliberate actions in our own lives, cultivate conditions that allow for deeper, more meaningful personal transformation? Not just in therapy, but maybe anywhere. Something to ponder. Thank you so much for joining us for this insightful discussion today. We really hope it sparks further curiosity and supports you on your own learning journeys. Until next time.